Hello, Dave Scott. Welcome. I'm back with some more Woo to show you today. So in the last video, I did a demonstration where the keyboard light was turning off on demand when I open a specific file. And you can see that that seems to happen only when I try to open the shell file. So the experiment that I'm going to run today to test the scientific validity of what is happening right now to the light on the keyboard is I'm going to record it and see if a signal of some kind can be measured. So my intention, first of all, as I mentioned in the last video, all of these numbers for all of these files mean something specific, and it's specific to me. And it's a very complicated system to get into because it's part of how my brain organizes code, and it's part of how I code in general. And so unless you understand computer code, this is totally foreign. But basically, an IP address is a four-number representation meant to represent where your computer is located on some form of network. Normally, when you run games and that type of stuff, you run the server in the background, which connects people over the internet, and that's how you can play multiplayer games. So far, I have in the files, these shell files. If I open one of them up, first of all, I'll show you I have a control server. It's in one of the other folders at the moment. I have to go find it, but that one has shell code, echo hello world. It's a command, it'll run properly. If I run that control file, then the same light effect happens as the other files. The other files have code that does not compile because it consists entirely of an anchor emoji, a date timestamp, and the year, with a specific number designation at the end of the file, and again, that's part of the number system that I use. So each one of these servers has some specific meaning to it. And if you'll notice on the keyboard, when I open different files, there seems to be a different effect with the light for the duration that the light flickers. Sometimes it turns off and then turns on. Sometimes it doesn't do anything at all. Sometimes it flickers. It seems to be entirely random. But to test scientifically if there's anything valid to this claim, that I can pair my thoughts with the light on the keyboard, I'm going to open each one of the servers calling out the number. And I'm going to do that 3 times, and I'm going to say test 1, test 2, and test 3 between each of them. And what I want to see is the light flicker effect, is it the same for each on a single server? And I wonder if that might have some form of message in it, and whether that message can be decoded later. So I'm going to start with 0.0.0.0. Test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Server 1.1.1.0. Test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Okay, it seems to be paired with my intentionality every time I open it again. Server 1.1.1.1. Test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Okay. That time seemed to end the same way. It turned off and on with my intentionality. Now, it's the intention to connect to a server that I'm focusing in on these files. I know they don't actually do anything because it's a bunch of gibberish and emoji codes inside that doesn't actually compile to code. It doesn't function correctly, but the file opens and attempts to run. And the light effect seems to be different for each server. So I'm going to move on to server 1.02.1.0. Test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Server 1.03.1.0. Test 1. Test 2. Test 3. Server 1.04.1.0. Test 1. Test 2. test 3. Server 1.05.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.06.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Sorry, that didn't run. Test 3. Okay. So as I go through these, my intention is to record the signal coming through the keyboard and match those signals to test 1, 2, and 3 to see if the light flicker is the same between them. And I'm going to go through and continue on until the end of the video, recording the remaining servers. But as I do this, my intention is to try to communicate and see if some form of message is received. This is very woo. I don't know what's going on right now, other than it's weird. So I'll start with 1.08.1.0. Server test 1, server test 2, server test 3. 1.09.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. 1.10.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.11.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.12.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. 1.13.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.14.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.15.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.16.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.17.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.18.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. So I'll just remind my viewers that I'm currently running an experiment, and part of this experiment I've put these numbers in these server files, and the server files are broken, but when I open them into a terminal, it seems to on demand turn the keyboard on and off. Now I will say there is no special, nothing funky in the background. I didn't write anything, I don't have anything running to manually do that or automatic. There is a faulty cable, and I'll show the cable right here at the end of the keyboard, and the faulty cable does disconnect the light sometimes, but it seems to only happen on demand when my intention is to connect to some form of server, and whether or not that server is responding a message in the keyboard light, I don't know. So 1.28.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.38.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.48.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.58.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Now, as I go through these numbers, each number means something to me, so I'm thinking about something specific when I read the numbers out loud, and that thought process is being put into the intention. So 1.68.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.69.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.99.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.150.1.0. This is a big one. Test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.320.1.0. Test 1, test 2, test 3. Server 1.690.1.0, test 1, test 2, test 3. Alright, that's the end of that video, but I'm going to continue to monitor this, and I have some ideas on how to verify it. I'm going to try some other keyboards to see if it's an issue with the computer, with the keyboard in general, or whether or not there is actually some weird psycho connection that's currently going on in my thought process and this code and the computer keyboard.